Welcome to Telltale Books. I'm Greg, and I'm going to talk in this video about another in my Art Influences series. What I'm doing now is something I've just recently decided after I'd already made plans to go through the history of things. I decided that I really wanted to talk on a weekly basis. So every Sunday I'm going to do one of these art videos, and some of them are going to be the historical videos where I did the ancient art video. Some of them will be of that, coming up through the ages. But in between those, because those take a longer time for me to assemble, in between those, I want to have somewhat smaller videos focusing on just one item that I want to talk about. Sometimes it's just going to be an overall topic. Sometimes it's going to be a specific book design that I either like or don't like. Sometimes it's going to be more talking about how things get done, maybe talking about how I do things in my work, and how my processes have been developed out of what I've learned about other artworks, other artists, and how they do things.
We are Telltale Books, bringing you the best in literature, literary topics, and graphic design and bookmaking.
If you want to support us, you can find us on Etsy and Pango, where you can find gently used, rare, and even top quality used books.
And if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and maybe even that bell to be notified when new videos go live.
Thanks for joining us.
This video then is going to be one where I talk about just a single book that I have. And this single book, I saw it online and fell in love with it because it almost 100% epitomizes everything that we love in a collectible book here at Telltale Books. All the things that we would like to put into our books, the majority of it can be seen in this one book that was online for sale. And that is something to remember, is that what we want to do is not, we're not inventing anything. We're not coming up with something totally new that nobody's ever seen before. We're following a tradition of small presses that has been going on for many, many, many years, definitely dating back into the 1800s, a lot in the 1900s, and continuing today with presses like Suntuck Press, Folio Society, Centipede, Subterranean, Levidian. A lot of the publishers of these books I've got behind me, going back to publishers like Arkham House, Gnome Press, Fantasy Press. These have been doing smaller runs, and most of them have been putting much higher quality work into what they do. So these books are not your mass market paperbacks that you find on the supermarket spinner that I guess you probably don't even see anymore, but you used to see all the time. In supermarkets and drugstores, these spinner racks that were made of wire and just had paperback books in them. For many, many, many years, that's where we found our paperbacks, is on things like that. We didn't have Barnes & Noble or Borders or Amazon. We had just either small, locally owned bookshops, or we had small areas of regular stores, either shelves or spinners, that had books and magazines on them. Drugstores and cigar shops were big with stuff like this. The old dime stores were big with stuff like this. That's where a lot of us found our books when we were young. I know I did. I was fortunate to have a couple of very good bookstores here in Racine that I went to when I started really reading. But I also went, for a lot of my magazines, I went to a place called Rails in downtown Racine. I'm not sure if they're there anymore. I know the owners that had it back then are retired. They were mostly cigarettes and cigars, but they also sold candy and magazines. They had tons of magazines and a small selection of books. And that's where I went for a lot of the magazines. That's where I first found fantasy and science fiction and analog and Asimov's and amazing stories. Galaxy was there. Those were all down at Rails. So that's where I went to looking for books. And those stores didn't have these special edition types of books. What they had were the mass market, the magazines, the paperbacks. The bestseller hardcovers might be there as well. But the smaller press stuff like Arkham House, you couldn't find anywhere in stores in Racine. The first Arkham House book I got, the Dunwich Horror and Others, I had to have a local store, a department store that had a book department. The store was called Shopco. They're no longer in business. When they opened in Racine, they had a very nice book department. But it was just mass market bestsellers, a small selection of science fiction. But they could order whatever you wanted. They were willing to order whatever you wanted. And so I went down there and had them look up H.P. Lovecraft because I had come across something by Lovecraft and I wanted to know more about him, wanted to get a book of his. And they were able to get the Dunwich Horror and Others from Arkham House. This was 1979, okay? All of the other specialty publishers, Starblaze, Greg Press, Canaveral, those weren't in the stores. They weren't available to someone like me. You couldn't find those anywhere in Racine. But they were out there. And today they're easily available out through the internet. There's lots of them around doing great stuff. And I absolutely love it. And I would love for Telltale Books to join them in publishing and preserving some of the best literature that we have in special editions that are collectible and really enhance a library more than a beat up old paperback can. So I found this book. It was for sale. I bought it. Wasn't cheap, but it wasn't ridiculous. And I bought it. And there's so much about this book that does sum up what Emily and I have talked about for Telltale Books. Now, the outside of it is not so impressive. But this is a book from the 1920s. And what you're seeing here is the dust jacket still on the book. That is remarkable for a book of this vintage, to still have the dust cover. So that right there told me I wanted this book. If you remove the dust cover, you'll see, if I remove the dust cover very carefully, because I don't want to damage it, you'll see that the book itself has that same design, but better preserved and a little bit darker print to it, I think. Yeah, so, the cover, the hard cover of the book, it's nice, and it's got a nice kind of Celtic style design. The book is Tristan and Isoude is how it's. You see it spelled differently everywhere. Some of it is Tristan and Isoude, which is how Wagner titled his opera. This one is Tristram and Isoude, or Isoude, something like that. But it's all the same story. It's the two lovers. And I am not exactly sure who wrote this. The Romance of Tristram of Lyons Giabil Isoude. drawn by Evelyn Paul, published by George Herod Company Limited. Okay, so I assume they're using one of the original texts. Hope you can see this well enough. End papers. Beautiful design to the end papers. That is definitely one of the things that I love about a well-done book. Gorgeous illustrations. These are very medieval Celtic style, which is definitely in line with this particular book. And look at these plates, the lettering, the titles, extremely Celtic, almost looking like the Book of Kells. It's just an awesome book. Probably was inspired a lot by what William Morris had been doing. A lot of what's been done with this book is probably inspired a lot by William Morris's press that he had. And the book is just beautiful. The design, the illustration, the typography is just amazing to this book all the way throughout. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I want to do. This is what I aim for. This is what I look for in books, and usually don't find to this level. Usually you find just parts. Okay, even if you pick up a Suntop book, this is the latest Suntop. Now this one has a case, which the Tristan book doesn't have. Maybe it came with one originally, but it doesn't have it now. But you can see this has beautiful illustration. Not really much in the way of an end paper though, and beautiful typography and illustration throughout. Okay. So this is what we have today. You know, this is an example of what's being done today. It's really good. It's just as good as what had been done in the Tristan book. Except, like I say, I don't think, if it ever had a slipcase, it didn't come with one. Because I don't have a slipcase for this. I might make one. I just might make one. But this is what we're doing today that is very similar to this Tristan book. Okay, so, you know, you can see there's a lack of the end papers. The typography isn't quite so spectacular as the Tristan, but it's very well done. It's excellent graphic design. It's just not as wow as what you have in this Tristan. So a lot of times today, and there are a lot of other publishers that don't bother with the slipcase, they don't bother with end papers, the typography is a little more conventional, the illustration's a little more straightforward, you know, things like that. They don't use the gold leaf or even just gold ink. There's a lot of them that aren't doing, that are cutting corners on stuff like that, and I can understand that. They're still doing very beautiful books, so you don't have to have every one of these check boxes in order for me to think it's a great book. So that's what I'm getting at. But this is sort of the poster child of what I talk about on Telltale Books when I talk about really, really great books. And this isn't something, I don't think even when this book was published, it probably wasn't something you could walk into a bookstore and purchase. It was probably something available through some kind of literary society, or something that was only available through very select booksellers, or something that was only available by mail order, by contacting the company. You know, kind of like today, Folio Society books are not available in stores. You can't go to Barnes & Noble and buy the latest folios. You have to go to the Folio Society website and order it. and it comes to you. In the 1920s, of course, they didn't have websites. You had to do it mail orders. So I don't know if they had any kind of catalog you could get. A lot of them did, the Folio Society name comes from the fact that a lot of them did establish subscription services, basically, where you got yourself on their mailing list and they would send you what their latest works are, and you would buy them or not. Sometimes you would agree to at least look at their latest month's offering, and if you do nothing, you have to pay for it. If you send it back, then you don't pay for that month's one. Kind of like that's how the Science Fiction Book Club operated for years, which is now defunct. But the Science Fiction Book Club operated that way, where they would send you a couple books each month, and if you did nothing, they would bill you for it, and you had to pay. But if you didn't want this month's offering, it was okay. You just had to send it back, and then you wouldn't have to pay for it. And you did agree to buy a certain number of books every year. And with Science Fiction Book Club, they always had plenty of books to fulfill the agreement. But then you get locked into something where you're spending way more money than you really should, because you just keep getting these wonderful, wonderful books. The illustrator, I mentioned her name. I'm not familiar with that illustrator, never seen her work before that I know of. But very nice illustrations in this Tristan. An excellent example of what I'm driving towards with Telltale Books. Although the illustrations are a lot more flat, medieval style than I think that style is appropriate for this particular book, but I wouldn't want to do a style like that for, say, The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. I would want to use a different style of illustration, probably something more along the lines of what artists like Michael Whalen or John Berkey or Frank Frazetta might do. Boris Vallejo, those artists, their more realistic styles are probably what I would want for something like War of the Worlds, as opposed to what's in this Tristram. But the illustrations in this Tristram are excellent. And for a book like this, yeah, I would want to do a style like that. If I were doing a new edition of, Beowulf or Tristram or the Canterbury Tales or something like that, I would definitely want to explore that kind of illustration. So I think the illustration is 100% appropriate and really excellently done. This, I just found this, I've only had this maybe 3 weeks, and it took a couple of weeks to get here in the mail, so it's been a little over a month since I saw this book, and I never knew, I know the tale of Tristan and Isoude, of course, from the Wagner music. So I knew that there was a legend that was written about. I've seen Penguin Classic books of Tristan. I've been aware of it, but not aware of this edition. I'd never seen this before, never knew this book existed until I saw it, and I fell in love with it instantly. This is so beautiful. So that's my art rant for today, for this week. Come back on Sundays. Every Sunday I'm going to do an art-related topic. This is still Telltale Books. I'm going to try to keep it about art for books, so it's going to focus a lot on illustration and graphic design. And fine art with literary inspiration, which does include all the Greek mythology and Bible subjects that can be found in the work of the past masters. I'm going to talk about all that stuff and how it relates to what I want to do for Telltale Books, how it relates to the work that I'm going to be doing, that I have done and I'm going to be doing, getting back into for my artwork. and showing all this stuff, showing you some really beautiful artwork. But although there's going to be times I'm going to be showing stuff that I don't like, okay? Because I'm going to use these Sundays sometimes as a platform for critiquing things I don't like that are being done by publishers either today or in the past. Okay, and so I'll be showing you some ugly books too. I'll be showing you those, and I'll be telling you why I think they're crap. Why I think you should listen to me when I say that they're crap. And all that kind of fun stuff. So come on back and watch these. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be here doing this every Sunday.